Old money style is a classic and timeless way of dressing that's usually associated with generational wealth, but that doesn't mean that you and we can't dress this way, especially if we genuinely like the look. And that's why today we're going to focus on how to achieve one of the most iconic versions of the old money style, which is going to be the preppy look or the Ivy look. I'm going to share my list of 9 essential items for this look. All of them are important, so make sure to watch the video to the end. And let's start with item number 1. If you take a look at old photos from the Ivy League look, what is something that they all have in common? You can see that all of them, they wear different blazers, they wear different shirts and different pants, but there's one thing that pretty much all of them have in common. Did you find it? In this case, I'm talking about the shoes and specifically about the penny loafer. The penny loafer is pretty much the most iconic shoe for the Ivy look, and it's also a shoe that I personally really love. I know that it's kind of divided among subscribers. Some of you said that you don't really like the look of loafers, you think it looks a little bit too old-fashioned, but I personally really like loafers, and if you want to achieve this look, then you definitely need a pair of good loafers. And personally, I really like the look of suede loafers, but for the Ivy League look, if you really want to recreate it in the most authentic way, then they're usually not in suede leather, but they're in regular leather, either in a dark brown or a mid brown shade, like the ones I have right here from Hockady.com. I think they are kind of the perfect blend of casual and formal. You can wear them with a suit to the office and they're always going to look great. And on the other hand, they work well with pretty much any of the casual outfits. And if you want to mix it up a little bit and you don't want to go for a penny loafer, you could also try something like a tassel loafer, which also is a little bit more unique and looks pretty interesting. But I think as a staple for your wardrobe, nothing pretty much beats a penny loafer. It's very minimal, very elegant, and you can combine it with so many different outfits. The next item on the list is another Ivy League staple, and it comes originally from the British Royal Navy. And in this case, of course, I'm talking about the navy blazer. Because if you look at many of the old photos, you can see the students wear some kind of sport jacket or sport blazer. And many times it's either a navy blazer or it's going to be something like a tweed jacket as well. And the navy blazer normally comes with brass buttons, it's double-breasted and has peak lapels. It's a very timeless and elegant piece, and you can wear it with many different types of pants, which is something that we're going to cover later in the video. I designed the one I'm wearing at Hockady.com, who are also the sponsors of today's video. And I went for brass buttons, wide peak lapels, and I went for no lining because I'm probably going to wear it mostly during summertime. The one thing to keep in mind is that this blazer has a very unique look to it, especially because of the brass buttons. So if it's not really your style and you think that you probably wouldn't wear it that much, then you can also just switch the buttons around and you can go for some dark horn buttons. And then it's just going to be a double-breasted blazer with dark horn buttons. It's going to look a lot more subtle, and it's something that you can wear on many different occasions, even if you go, for example, on a summer wedding and you just wear this blazer with some lighter pants, for example, and you're going to look absolutely fantastic and stand out from the crowd. But if you don't really want to wear a navy blazer at all, then you could also go for a nice tweed jacket as well, because this is another staple of the Ivy League look. It doesn't really matter which one you choose, you can't really go wrong with any of them, and you're always going to look fantastic. Another classic from the Ivy look is, of course, the button-down shirt, and this is usually an Oxford cloth button-down shirt, and the most famous color would be a light blue, but you could also go for different colors, of course. You can go for white, you can go for a striped version as well, and probably the most famous brands for the button-down shirt for the Ivy look would be either Brooks Brothers or Ralph Lauren. A button-down shirt is a little bit more casual than a regular dress shirt, and it gives you this very subtle, elegant vibe. You can either wear it with a tie or without, and you will always look great. And if you don't want to wear a blazer, it always looks great underneath a cardigan or sweater as well. If you look at any of the old photos, one of the most common types of trousers you're going to see are chino trousers. And the most classic option would be either cream or beige. And I personally would actually prefer cream because I think that cream always looks a little bit more subtle than beige. And on the other hand, also beige is probably the most common color out there. Wherever you go, pretty much the major color for chinos is beige, but I think cream is just a little bit more subtle, a little bit more elegant, and it's going to make you stand out just a little bit more. And one thing you want to keep in mind with pretty much any item on this list is that you want to avoid the clothes to be too slim fit as well, because the Ivy League look is usually a little bit more looser. It's not a super wide or super loose look, but it's definitely a bit more loose than a slim fit, and that's also what gives this look this kind of casual vibe. I personally don't wear chinos that often, so only have one pair at the moment, and like you can see, they could be a little bit wider, especially for this look, but again, it's the only one I have at the moment. Chinos are also a really great smart casual trouser because you can even wear it to the office, depending on where you work, of course, because it's going to be a very nice business casual. And if you want to add a little bit more color, you could also go for shades of green, brown, or navy. And for the Ivy look, the most common type of chino would be flat fronted and without a cuff. But if you want to add a little bit of your own touch and you want to have custom pants, then you could also have pleated chinos with a cuff at the bottom as well. The next item on the list are corduroy or flannel trousers for wintertime, and corduroy is one of those fabrics that looks really well with the ivy look. And when you look at a lot of the ivy look photos, you will see that they were not really afraid of playing with colors. Because, for example, you can see people wearing really bright red pants, for example. Now, personally, I'm not the biggest fan of taking this too far and having extremely bright outfits, but it can be nice to have a little bit of color here and there. And that's why in this case, for the corduroy trousers, I chose a dark red pair of corduroy pants because I think it looks quite nice. And the inspiration for this was from this photo right here, because I think that his outfit actually looks really, really nice. Everything looks very well put together. And I've kind of got inspired by this and tried to recreate the look as best as I can. And I like the fact that it's not too over the top with the colors, because if, for example, he went for a bright pink color or a really bright red, then in my opinion, I think it would have been a little bit too much. But again, that's completely personal preference. If you want to go for this, then it's completely up to you. I know that the dark red is a really unique color, and I'm not sure how many times I'm going to wear it actually. So if you want to go for different color corduroy pants, then really good options would also be to go for navy, to go for a dark shade of green, maybe some brown as well, or even in cream, because they can look really, really elegant in cream. But there's one thing you have to keep in mind when it comes to corduroy, because for me personally, every time in the past when I thought about corduroy, I thought a little bit about old fashion, and it depends a little bit on how thick the stripes are. And I just learned this yesterday, that the lines or the stripes are not called stripes, but they are called wales. And so what you want to keep in mind is that the thicker and wider the wales are, the more old-fashioned it's going to look, and the thinner the wales are, the more modern it's going to look and a more clean cut. So for me personally, I like to go for a little bit more of a thinner wale, but it's completely up to you in the end. Just keep this in mind when you think of corduroy pants. And if corduroy pants are not really your thing at all, then you could also go for some heavy wool trousers, either maybe in tweed or flannel, because they are also another staple pants of the ivy look, and they're going to keep you very warm and stylish in wintertime. The next item on the list would be ties. And if you look at most of the old Ivy League photos, you will see that the students were wearing ties, and many of them were either striped or with small patterns, or even the knitted version as well. All of those look a little bit more casual than the solid color ties, and for me personally, I really, really like striped ties. I don't know why, it's the same with shirts as well, but I really have a thing for striped ties or striped shirts. The tie that I'm wearing right now is from Kamakura, Japan, and I think it looks really, really well for the Ivy League look. And ties are one of those items that are perfect for the secondhand market, because especially if you're in North America, you're going to be able to find a lot of the authentic, vintage Brooks Brothers and Ralph Lauren ties that are going to look absolutely incredible for this look. And I personally like it when the ties have a little bit of red or dark green in them, because I think it works really well with this look, and especially with a navy blazer, for example. But if you went for the tweed sport jacket, then a knitted tie can also work really well. Next up on the list, we have a nice overcoat, and this is an essential item especially for the colder months. And depending on the season and depending on what you like, you can either go, for example, for a trench coat, or you can go for a nice wool coat, because both of them are very timeless pieces, and if you take care of them, they're going to last you a very long time. And like I mentioned earlier, for the look of this video, I was inspired by this photo, so I tried to design similar items, and I went for this beautiful cream trench coat with a belt, and also a brown alpaca coat with peak lapels and with a half belt on the back. I actually think that the alpaca coat looks better in this case, but I think both of them are fantastic options. And which of the two do you think looks better? Let me know in the comments below. And then I also have this nice vintage cashmere coat in navy, which was thrifted. And I also think this works really, really well with this look. And when it comes to coats, I would probably go for either brown, navy, cream, or gray, because they're all very subtle and versatile colors, and they work really well with the old money style. The next item on the list would be a nice sweater, and you have a lot of options here for the Ivy League look. When you search for the old money style, the sweater that you're going to find the most is probably the tennis sweater. And even though I think it's a beautiful sweater, it's not really something that I think is too practical or that I see myself wearing a lot. And that's why I'm putting it on the list right here, but I'm also giving you some other options, because I personally would probably rather go for either a chunky cardigan, or I would go for something like a V-neck sweater or crew neck sweater, because all of those sweaters are also staples of the Ivy look. And in terms of colors, I would probably go for either navy, green, brown, or cream. And of course, you could also go for a nice turtleneck, because this is another common sweater for the old money style. The last staple on the list would be a nice dress watch. And you can debate me on this, but I think for this look, a dress watch that is quite minimal and elegant would be the best option. I personally always think that watches with a leather strap are the most elegant and most subtle ones. And especially if it's in dark brown, like your dark brown loafers, I think it looks more elegant than a dive watch, and I think it works really well with this look. And if budget is not an issue, then the Cartier Tank Américain or also the Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso, both of them would be absolutely amazing options. If I had the money, I would probably go for either of those. They're very minimal, they look so elegant, but of course it's a little bit pricey. But if you're looking for a more budget-friendly option, then I think the Zyko Presage, especially the cocktail one, works really well. I recently tried it on in a store and it looks absolutely stunning. And then also the Tissot Tradition would work really well. Or even better for this look would be a nice and authentic vintage watch. Because if you look on the secondhand market, for example on Chrono24, you can find some absolutely beautiful vintage watches from Longines. Or you can also find the Omega Seamaster, both of them for a pretty decent price. And both of them look very beautiful and elegant and minimal. And because both watches have this nice vintage feeling to them, they work absolutely perfect for this look. At this point, because of budget constraints, obviously I only own one watch, and that's the Tissot PRX80. And even though it has this nice vintage feeling to it, you can obviously tell that it's a new watch. And I think a nice authentic vintage watch would probably be the best option for this look. But if I had the money, I would probably go for the Tank Americain. What would be your choice of watch for this look? Let me know in the comments below. Those were my 9 essential items for the old money style, especially for the Ivy look. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to learn about the differences between the old money style and quiet luxury, then click on this video right here.